everyone, welcome to STEAM Time. My name is Dayna. I'm the Buena Vista Branch Manager with Monterey County Free Libraries. You may be asking yourself, why in the world am I wearing earmuffs and gloves when it's 65 degrees outside? Well, today we're about to get a bit chilly. We're going to be making snowstorms in a jar. We're going to walk through the experiment, and then we're going to talk about the science behind how it works. So grab your earmuffs, get on a pair of gloves, and get ready to make our own snowstorm. Now let's walk through the supplies you're going to need for today's experiment. You're going to need a glass container. For this one, I'm using a glass mason jar. Use whatever you have on hand that is a bit taller. You're going to need oil. So for this, I'm using baby oil. I do recommend using baby oil. You can use vegetable oil if you have that at home. However, it is going to change the color. It's going to make it more of a yellow color versus a nice clear snowstorm with the baby oil so that you can really see the white paint. You're going to need acrylic paint. White acrylic paint. I found this at Target. This little bottle right here was 99 cents. So you don't need very much, just a couple squirts of white paint, acrylic paint. You're going to want Alka-Seltzer. So these are the antacid Alka-Seltzer. These are little tablets. This is kind of the magic of the experiment. A spoon or a stir stick. A small bowl to mix your water and your paint mixture. And then of course, we're going to need water. So just a container of water. I have a measuring cup. So this is all you are going to need to create your very own snowstorm in a jar. So stay tuned and we're going to dive into the science behind it. What exactly makes our snowstorm in a jar work? Well, there's actually a few things going on in this experiment that actually create the snowstorm reaction. So one of the first things that we're going to talk about is the Alka-Seltzer tablet. Now this has baking soda in it. So that is sodium bicarbonate. And you probably have seen baking soda around your house. A lot of people clean and bake with it. So sodium bicarbonate is one of the ingredients inside of an Alka-Seltzer tablet. So let me show you the chemical reaction that takes place when you drop a tablet into water. Are you ready? Watch the water. We're just going to drop it in and it automatically begins to fizz. So right now, the chemical reaction taking place is happening because the sodium bicarbonate, which is baking soda, that is mixing with water. So the citric acid and hydrogen oxide are mixing together, and that is creating a gas called carbon dioxide. So that's the little bubbles that you see happening inside of our little cup. So this chemical reaction is one of the things that is going to make our snowstorm in a jar work. So we'll set this aside. The second piece of science at play is density. So when we take oil, so our baby oil and water, those do not mix. Water molecules are polar. Oil molecules are nonpolar. So what that means is the polar molecules in water, they have a really tiny positive charge at one end and a little negative charge at the other end for the water molecule. Now, they are attracted to each other like magnets. They have a really strong bond, the water molecules. That is not the case with oil. Oil is a non-polar molecule. So therefore, they are more attracted to each other than water molecules. So you'll see oil is less dense than water. So When we mix oil and water together, they separate. They do not like to be mixed. So you'll see in the experiment how we're going to have two layers in our jar. We'll have a layer of water with our paint mixture and a layer of the baby oil, because water and oil do not mix. So that is the science that is taking place for the science experiment. Who knew? So many science concepts in just one snowstorm in a jar. So now let's jump in to trying the science experiment and seeing how big of a blizzard we can create. We just learned about the science behind the experiment. We talked about density, we talked about chemical reactions between sodium bicarbonate and water, and now we're going to put it all together. So to start with, I'm going to take a small bowl and my white acrylic paint. I'm going to start with just a few drops of paint, and I'm going to add water to that. Now, you want it to be the consistency of, or the color of milk. So you just want to stir your paint and your water. You want it to look like milk. Mine's getting there. So stir, stir, stir. Give it a few good stirs. Okay, mine looks pretty good. And then I'm going to transfer my paint and water mixture into my mason jar. So mine looks like that. Next, you are going to want to add baby oil. So we're going to add more baby oil than we did water. And then some people recommend 3/4 cup oil. It's really going to depend on the size of your jar. So go ahead. I'm just going to add my oil. And what you're going to see is as you add your oil to the water, you're going to see that density at work. So you're going to see how the oil and the water stay separate. They do not mix. So that's the end of this. Now, what you want to do is we're actually going to let it settle just a little bit. So you're going to want to let the water and the oil separate. And I can see at the bottom, I have paint and my water, and the rest of this is our baby oil. Now, we're going to add the magic part. We're going to add our Alka-Seltzer tab. And to make it fun, so you can kind of make this last a little bit longer, I'm going to break my Alka-Seltzer tabs into smaller pieces before I put them in my jar. So, are you ready? Let's see what happens when we add one chunk to our jar. So I'm going to move it just a little bit closer so we can see the reaction. Okay, let's see what happens when we add our first piece. See if we notice anything happen. I know I'm seeing some bubbles starting to form, especially on the top. So we'll see if we see some movement. So when we are dropping the Alka-Seltzer tabs into our water and oil and paint mixture, what's happening is there's a reaction between the Alka-Seltzer tab and the water. That, like we talked about earlier, is creating a carbon dioxide gas. So that's the chemical reaction taking place. And so the bubbles that you see forming, those are filled with carbon dioxide. And so those little gas bubbles, they're pushing the paint and the water mixture upwards to the top of the jar. So those are starting to be pushed upward. But because the oil has a different density, the oil is going to exert a pressure that then pushes the mixture back down. So the water and the paint are being pushed up, and then the oil on top is pushing it back down. So it's creating that snowstorm effect. So let's see, let's add a little bit more. And you can also try, we'll show this side, it's a little bit harder with white. You can try also adding less paint as well if you want it to be a little bit less cloudy. Let's add a little bit more and see what happens. Okay. And I'm gonna hold it right up so you can see. You'll start to see the paint in the water go up and down, and again, it's that chemical reaction and the density pushing the water and the paint back down as it's trying to rise. And I will say, for this one, I probably would recommend using a little bit less paint and play with that. That's the cool thing about the experiment, is try using less paint. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me for today's steam time, where we made our very own snowstorm in a jar. I wanted to create a version using vegetable oil, if that's what you have around your house. So this jar is just vegetable oil, same paint and water mixture. You can see that separate on the bottom. And if you look closely, you're gonna start to see some of the paint bubble up towards the top and be pulled upwards. So that's the thing. Give it a little bit of time to separate, and it will clear up enough in the middle for you to see your actual snowstorm take place. If you enjoy these types of experiments, definitely check out one of our branches. We have a lot of books that are science themed, STEAM and STEM themed. You can place holds online at emcfl.org, and then pick up your items at curbside service at any of our local branches. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you all next time. Bye-bye.